Chris, thanks for taking the time to talk with me, man. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this. So, yeah, just tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do and what you're passionate about, and we'll take it from there.
Well, I'm a newly 50-year-old guy who just went and got his yearly checkup blood test this morning, and I'm still.
Welcome to the welcome to the 50s.
Why does everybody say that? Is it really that, like, I've turned 30 and 40, and nobody ever said anything about welcome to the club. But as soon as I turned 50, which was this past Sunday, all of a sudden there's this club I never knew about. Everyone says that. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. Now you're here. That's cool. I just never knew that there was.
It's an exclusive club, man.
Apparently, yeah. I never knew about it. Right. So that makes it exclusive right there. So that's like the newest thing for me. That's right here, man. That's all I think about is how did I become 50? I'm still 16 in my head, and I feel like I was 20 something years old yesterday, and and I'm sure you're thinking the same thing. So that's
so tell us a bit about your journey playing guitar and what brings you
the journey. Oh boy. Maybe it'd be better to go backwards. Like what's happening now? I mean, I play and do what I do to make a living. That's how I contribute to the household. My wife works as well, and she's got a great job. She's very good at what she does. So together somehow, because we always laugh about this because, we met in high school and stuff like that. So here we are as these two kids. We still think we're kids in our heads, and we definitely act like we are. That, all of a sudden we're grown up and we have a mortgage and children, our grown children and stuff like that, like kids going off to college, and like how we pulled this off. Because, we're still in that sometimes, thinking we're still in high school, driving around and, doing dumb stuff the kids do.
I'm in the same boat. My wife and I met in high school, and now I'm a grandfather.
Right.
How did that happen?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm not quite there, but I'm probably not that far away with my oldest being 20. He's already got a full-time job. So I do what I do as it's my living. It's always been my living ever since, leaving college, graduating in 95 from William Patterson. I immediately went in. Well, I continued, excuse me. I continued teaching. I already started doing it in my last years of school. It kind of fell in my lap, seemed like a logical thing to do. It was definitely better than delivering pizza, which is what I was doing at the time, or at the same time as I started doing that. So after college, I just kept expanding on what I had started to build up there in what we call North Jersey. And I literally kept those students and started to find gigs and around, back my home area, which is the Jersey Shore, which is where I live now. And so, like I said, what I do now is play, but I create stuff. I still play, not as much. That's a whole other conversation. For two reasons, I don't play as much as I used to. Well, number one being everything got thrown off a couple of years ago, obviously. But even before that, I had scaled down things because my boys were getting older and I wanted to be around. And when my first son was born and when my second son was born, 0204, I was absolutely 100%, like a busy freelance sort of fly date session guy in and out of New York, live in New Jersey. And it was very busy. And it quickly became apparent that there's one or, there's a way I don't want to do fatherhood and there's a way I do. And I chose to do what I wanted to do, and that was be around. And as they got older, it became even more important because, they need you more as they get older. And, you become the coach of different things, especially things you're incredibly unqualified for, including basketball. I coached basketball for 3 seconds, and that was, or a couple seasons actually. For rec, it was terrible. I never played basketball, and so whatever. But anyway, the point is, I took down the live playing thing down a notch and transformed things into working at home more, or at least just not having to travel as much. And who knew like 20 years later, whatever the math is, 15 years later, the world would be in a pandemic. And I was set up, I was already where everybody was trying to scramble to. I was already there and into it for years. So when that happened, there was no transition for me. There was in many other respects, but for work, I was already totally locked into being a home content creator with clients, not just, trying to do it the indie content creator guy, the YouTube guy or whatever, the Instagram guy or the self-publishing guy, which is something actually that I'd like to get into more. But anyway, so that's why I do, or how I got into doing what I do, which is, being a TrueFire artist, regular contributor to Guitar Player magazine. So that's primarily what I do. Every once in a while, something comes in to go do some live playing. And then, some things have been falling in my lap lately, coming in, like FutureFret. We should chat about that for a second when that becomes a good idea. That's a thing that's developing and stuff like that. It's my partnership with Vernon Reed. So it's always a bunch of things, because the only way to make money, or that I've seen for me, is multiple streams of income. And there's been multiple streams that have come and gone. So that's where I'm at.
So when you say play, you're talking about doing live gigs and session musician, or when you say play versus teach, you're kind of making the distinction between being a active member of a band and performing live and that kind of thing versus the content creation kind of stuff you're doing now.
Yeah, it's like all of the above. It's everything. If so let's say I was at the baseball field. My youngest played baseball quite a bit. And, any baseball parents know this, there's lots of downtime. And you sit and you get to know all the parents over the years and stuff, because there's just so much, especially when they're little. And, the inevitable question always comes up. What do you do for a living? Hey, what do you do? What do you do? And I cringe at that question, because it's not a simple answer. I mean, it could be,
right,
but then it automatically turns into, some normal, acceptable, predictable questions. First one is always, you in a band? And then when you say no, then you get different. You get you get a couple reactions. One is the face. And usually the face is, I don't get it. What do you mean you're not in a band? Like you said, this is what you do for a living. How are you not in a band? Because they can't, and understandably, people have no conception of what, that there's these ways to make money as an artist, as a musician, without being in a band. They can't even begin to imagine the many ways that you can make money. So, I try to avoid that question. But when it comes up, I usually say, I'm a freelance musician, which, definitely sparks its own conversation and this and that. And depending on, who I'm talking to and if my son's up or not, and stuff like that, is how far down the rabbit hole I will get into that question.
So in the diversity of things that you're doing right now, can you kind of give us an idea of like what pays the bills? Is it really just a culmination of all these things, kind of combination of all these things together?
Well, the primary focus is to make sure that I have a job, or jobs, to make sure that bills get paid. That's the primary focus. And some people take a statement like that in different ways. Coming from somebody who's an artist, who plays the guitar for a living, because some people take it as well, you're in it just for the money. Well, first of all, no. I got into playing music and playing the guitar because I was a kid and my older brother did it, and I thought it was really cool. And then once I started doing it, I really liked it. And I became instantly obsessed with it. And I have been ever since. That's primarily why I do it. Because trust me, when I don't want to do something, I don't do it. Especially now, being a crotchety old 50-year-old, I'm not going to do anything that I don't want to do. And now I've gotten better at saying no, and partly because I can a little bit these days, but also I just learned to say no. Because that's, I didn't. I used to say yes to everything, regardless of how smart or stupid I was. I would say yes to everything. And, one too many times, I was like, oh man, why did I say yes to this? I didn't even want to do this. So the primary focus is to just keep the train going. And part of that is, like, I think I just named about 4 or 5 things before that I'm doing, the TrueFire thing, the guitar player thing. Those have been constants for the last couple. Well, TrueFire's been constant for a long time, but the big things right now that they're like, always in my face, in a good way, is TrueFire and guitar player. Then the Hal Leonard thing, the video thing for guitar instructor comes and goes, and my Skype lessons Monday, Wednesday. Like I've been doing Monday and Wednesday for longer than I can remember. That doesn't mean I'm not looking for other stuff. I'm always looking for other stuff. I'm always looking for other opportunities. I'm always open to discuss other opportunities. And as you know, it's not that easy for me to coordinate all that, but I'm always listening and watching for other opportunities, such as the thing with FutureFret when that came about. It was something that we talked about for a long time. Vernon and I talked about for a long time. And then it came to life thanks to a booking agent who decided to invest in it, a promoter who decided to invest in it. So how long that's going to last, I don't know. How long anything's going to last, I don't know. I just roll with them as long as they exist. Some of them go a long time. Like TrueFire has been going on since 2008. For me, TrueFire has been going on long before me, but for me, it's been going on since 2008. It looks like it's going to keep going for the foreseeable future, that's for sure, and I'm happy to do that. But when it comes to an end, if and when it does, then okay, I will definitely, as long as I'm still doing this pace and doing the things the way I do it, there will be other stuff that are happening or about to happen because that's just what I do. And because I have to. You can't rely on one thing or 2 things or 3 things. You can't rely on whatever you got going on right in front of you because you have no idea when they're going to end. That's part of being an independent contractor. Not even just an artist, just being someone who works on their own, has their own business. You have no idea what's around the corner and there's no security. So you have to constantly be looking ahead. And that's that one. I don't know if I figured it out early on. I just always did things that way. And it's paid off. Sometimes it can come back and bite you because sometimes you got too much on your plate. Or you spread yourself too thin, and or maybe I don't know, those 2 things. That they'll get you in trouble. But that's just part of it. You have to be able to brave through that because I wouldn't want to do it the other way, where I got 1 or 2 things going on, and one of those things just tanked, or both, and then what? You're done. Then you're like immediately in the red zone, and you're applying for jobs at Target or your local landscaper, and I've never had to do that, not once. Not once.
So within the portfolio diversity of things that you're working on, kind of everything kind of seems to fall under, for the most part, this like sharing your knowledge, right? And whether it's instruction or creating content, it's really in this kind of instructional wheelhouse. So can you drill down into what each one of these, for anybody that might not be familiar with TrueFire or the different things that you're doing?
Okay. Let me try to unpack that. That's a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, Monday and Wednesday, like I said, I teach privately. And luckily, after all this time doing that, people seek me out and they know what they want. Because, back when I started teaching, like I was saying, back in college, that was just whatever. Whoever walked through the door, which was mostly people that were beginners, kids and stuff like that. And it was like that for a long time. You teach them what you can or kind of what it's like, it's the Wild West. And if you're doing that and you're in that mode and that stage of your thing, one piece of advice I could give you among many is start to develop your own curriculum. And if you actually listen to yourself and pay attention to what you're doing, it'll kind of develop itself, because if you're teaching a lot, you're going to have a lot of time for trial and error. So pay attention to what works and what doesn't work, start cataloging it, and start developing your own curriculum. And then that makes things run much smoother. So with my own students, they know what they're looking for because they know what I do. So they're looking to tap into that. And I have some very specific things that are on my website. Something called the 7-tone program, and it has its own, or it has related programs to it. But there's the main thing, which everybody does first. So some people, like half my students, are 7-tone people, whether they're doing the actual diatonic one or the let's call them the graduate level programs of that. But everybody is there for a very specific reason, and it's adults. It's a lot of people who are already working musicians, and they're looking to up the playing skills, up their educational skills too, because I've been doing that a long time. Since the 90s, since the mid 90s and stuff like that. So some people just want to tap into all the process that go into things like TrueFire, or writing articles. So, TrueFire, for anyone who doesn't know, the best way I describe that is it is a multimedia guitar education monster. They've been around, I think, since the mid 90s. They started out as a phone service, meaning you can call in and listen to lessons. And I remember seeing it was called Notes on Call. And they would be, if you look in Guitar Player magazines, around that time in the mid 90s, you would call that number. So if there was a lesson article in there, and in the lower corner of the page, it would say Notes on Call, and you call that number, and maybe there's an extension or whatever code for that specific lesson. So that they recorded those lessons. Sometimes it was the writer, sometimes it wasn't. And then, came the internet and all that stuff, and they transformed into that. And they also started producing courses, in came, discs that you can stick into computers and stuff like that. They always went right along with whatever technology had to offer. And so they still do, they just morph their content creation into whatever we are regularly using every day. And they've created products ever since, and it's great. And I got in 08. It was right after I left Berkeley. I was at Berkeley from 03 to 08, which was great. It was fantastic. It was an honor to teach there and stuff, but it's just, I wanted to move on. And I also wanted to leave Massachusetts. Nothing against Massachusetts. I'm more of a coastal guy, and I just wanted to be closer to New York and closer to the ocean. So I cold called TrueFire. And back then, I got lucky because things weren't as hectic and big as they are now. The president of the company, I answered the phone, and I introduced myself, and he said, "I know who you are from your work with Guitar One magazine, because I used to do the CD-ROMs that came with that." So moving on from that phone call thing, Guitar One, not that they ever did that, but Guitar One and Guitar World eventually started including CD-ROMs with their issues, their monthly issues. And for Guitar One, they wanted someone, or they had someone, or several people, and eventually became me, that would play all the lesson articles content. So I would play every lick in every lesson article, and that's how he knew my work. Which is kind of funny, because those shots were here. You never saw my face. All you saw was that medium shot. It's what we call a medium shot of my hands and just playing and stuff like that. But anyway, you knew who I was.
So your hands were famous.
Yeah, something like that. So we just got to talking immediately, and about what we could do together, and we've been working together ever since. We've done so many things together. Like, not just me and Brad, but me and Brad for sure. But just myself and TrueFire have done so many things together. Like, I have 44 courses with them. I've done many side projects with them. I've been lucky enough to be part of a group of artists, or TrueFire artists, or just myself, that have done things, like introduce things, like the whole idea of series. I was there when that started. Series of courses, like the Licks You Must Know series, and and the part of the Guitar Lab series. And I have my own series called the Guitar Gym series and stuff like that. So we've done so many different things. Like I was part of the first batch of In the Jams and oh man, the song lessons that we're doing now. Now that's a thing we've transformed into. Like I said, TrueFire has always looked ahead, kind of like, exactly what I was explaining before, but then in their own way, they always have looked ahead. So Teach and Skype, TrueFire are the big ones. That's the stuff that has income coming in every month, whether it's, tuition fees for the students, or royalties from all the courses, and then, payments from whatever other jobs and stuff like that through TrueFire. That's the stuff that we know is coming in every month. Guitar player and writing for magazines, for a short time, that was monthly. The only time it was ever monthly for me is when I was writing for Guitar One. In addition to those CD-ROMs, I was also writing articles. And, thankfully they used me every month. That's called a regular contributor. And I was that for 2 years. That was the only time that magazine work was ever consistent. And it was great. And then the magazine, got shut down by the publisher and stuff. And, that's that. You never know. Literally, that one, you did not see that coming. And it's happened a couple times over the years, where magazines have just run their course. I've written for a few that are gone. So guitar player, I'm in there about half the year, but since the pandemic, that's much different. That really hit that industry pretty hard, and that has not bounced back since. But the work is still there. The work is definitely still there. I got some fun projects for this year and next year. I'm usually booked a year or two ahead with them. So in addition to those things, there's the stuff that comes up, like FutureFret came up, and FutureFret is a collaboration between Vernon and myself, where it's his idea, and he took me in on it. He wanted to create an environment where there's a conversation between modern guitar players and modern guitar gear technology, and everything that goes along with being a modern guitar player in that realm, including not just using the stuff, but having a voice between you and the manufacturers, which we're trying to do with events, to not, just learn how to better use the stuff, but even to say, to have your ideas be heard, have your complaints be heard. And also, he takes it a couple steps deeper into things too. Like the modern guitar player and modern gear, it's all great. Modern guitar player's got a lot of challenges. Less places to play, social media and the pressure that comes with it. And God, and all the people chiming in and telling you how great, or mostly telling you how you're not great and stuff like that. So we're still fleshing out exactly how to present that, but we did our first event in May, and it was great. We did a panel, we did master classes as part of this trade show that happened in New Jersey in Asbury Park, and we did a performance, with all 5 of us. We had 3 other artists with us that were part of our panel. We had David Torn, Avi Bortnick, and Osnoy. And it was fantastic. But that's one of those things that obviously is not a constant. It might become one. I'm working on it to be that. So is Vernon. We all are. So maybe that's going to become one of those things that becomes like, my TrueFire and my Skype lesson thing, where it's an ongoing thing. I don't know. I'm developing it. It might be something that happens once a year. I don't know. We'll see. But they're all different. There could be things that will happen that will absolutely just happen once. I'm trying to think something recently. Well, I got a gig next month with a fantastic singer. Her name is Leon Holmes. Last year we did this gig, and now we're going to do it again this year. Literally, it happens. Well, it's going to happen twice, but it's a yearly thing. It's me and her, guitar, vocals, kind of like a Tuck and Patty type of thing. I nicknamed it Jazz Not Jazz because we both are kind of playing standards, but we both do not consider ourselves jazz musicians. But there it is. It's once. It's a nice performance. It's a thing. It's a part of a series that happens in Freehold, New Jersey. And we're one of the acts. They book it. They post it as a series. You'll see us on there. I forgot what the date is, July something and stuff. But that's just once. and that's it. And if it happens again next year, I don't know. I have no idea. I was surprised it happened again this year. I didn't know that was going to happen. So, yeah, it's fly by the seat of your pants all the time, but not really. Of course, you want to grab onto some stuff like what I was saying about private lessons in TrueFire, which, by the way, in the beginning of TrueFire, Brad he had the vision, and I've learned a lot from him in many respects, including that one. He had the vision. I thought, okay, this is great. I'm going to do 1 or 2 courses, and then I don't know what else I got to talk about. 44 later, we're still coming up with stuff, and yeah, I had no idea that it would last this long. It's been the longest gig I've ever had, besides being alive and being a parent. That's about it. TrueFire is like the 3rd longest thing I've ever done. Oh no, I've been married longer. So there you go.
So what are some of the projects that you've worked on? Any projects that you've done for TrueFire that you really,
yes, there's a lot of TrueFire things that I did that I really like. So recently TrueFire got into the business of doing full song lesson videos, which is something that people have been asking, since I've been there, longer than I've been there. And the reason why they never did it, and they can do it now, is because they got the licensing. And that's just the way of the world. So now they have the licensing to do it. And in TrueFire fashion, like I was saying before, they're always trying to find a way to get the most out of whatever's available to them, today. So they want to, and also we talked about this. I was in on those talks in the beginning about, if we're going to do this, how do we do this well? And I'm proud that we're doing this because, to answer the question that you asked, because we are doing it different. The world did not need somebody else teaching someone how to play Running with the Devil again. But what the world could use is a way to present that lesson. Of course, make the lesson the best it can be. Like, I transcribed that song. I'm a decent transcriber. I've been doing it a long time. It has been something that has brought in income also. It's also how I got myself into Guitar Magazine, writing in itself. But so I do that the very best I can. I play those songs from start to finish. Every part, every single part. Now, Van Halen stuff, there's usually just 1 or 2 parts. But, for instance, I'm doing Roundabout also in this next shoot. That I've had to organize it into 9 parts, but I will play every single one of them. And you'll see those parts in video. And the way we do it now is we stick it into this player that was developed during the In the Jam phase, where it's almost like a video mixer. It's like a digital TV control, like for TV production, where you can you can see anything you want. So you can roll the Roundabout lesson, play it, and you can drop in on any part that I'm playing at any time. And there's a chart for it, and all that stuff. And then there's the breakdowns, and you can have commentary going on. I think they're doing it that way because they did that in the End of the Jam. But anyway, the point is that part of it is what makes it different than just getting a really good transcription or just getting a really good lesson video. And maybe transcription comes with it. It's interactive, so to speak. It's multifaceted. And, and also they shoot, you've seen the stuff that their video quality is great. It looks great. It sounds great and all that stuff. So I've been in on that since the very beginning, which has only been going on since last year. But I've recorded several tunes for them, and it's a challenge. I like it. I like doing the work, the transcribing, the prep, the shoot. I like doing the work because it's exciting. It's always new. That's a big thing for me. That's a big reason. That's one reason also why I left Berkeley or anything. Sometimes things come to an end because I'm done. So the song lesson thing is very exciting. It's a fun new chapter, but at the same time, I still like doing courses. The first one, Funk Vision, will always hold a special place. The early ones were a lot of fun. They're very different than the later ones. The early ones were kind of like very wide open. And you can really go in depth. They don't like to do that anymore because, we found that people tend to like smaller, shorter, more concise packages. So I enjoy them, but sometimes they were, the work was intense. But like anybody will tell you, or whatever that old saying is, it's not work if you enjoy it or something like that. I don't know. If you love what you do, it's never work. Is that it? That's
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally true.
If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, something like that.
That's the one. That's the one. Yes, and that's absolutely true. As scary as it is to do this for a living, I couldn't imagine, and I had never had to imagine doing anything else.
So what is your advice though for somebody that wants to do that, married or not, that might want to, since your wheelhouse is kind of all in the instructional and knowledge sharing and teaching, if somebody wanted, felt like their skills were developing enough that they saw themselves doing that, do you have any advice for them to pursue that path?
Yeah, sure. Well, what I was saying before on the teaching tip about developing your own curriculum in a way where you just listen to yourself, or if you write something out for a student, don't just give it away without keeping a copy. Don't just freely give things out without cataloging it, without paying attention to the data that you're literally creating. I'm not saying all of it's going to be the gold, but some of it will be, and you'll get better and better at it. And next thing you know, you have this thing. You got your method. And that right there is a very important concept to realize and to accept. Just because you are explaining something that 100 other instructors are explaining at the same time on the internet, down the road at the other music store, how you explain it is your product. There is only one pentatonic scale. There is only, one Hell's Bells, but how we present those subjects is our product. That's what makes us unique. That's what makes us that's our value right there. So you could totally connect with one person or many people, whereas somebody else connects with their people, and fine, you're both building your audiences. And you could totally do that together or separately. People don't have to go to one source. They can go to multiple sources. But definitely the one thing not to be discouraged by or think that doesn't exist is there's a place for you. There totally is. It's just a matter of you developing that thing and creating your own place. So as soon as you realize that, you can start to see how you can do it. You can make it happen. As for expanding it and just not being a guitar teacher, oh man, there's so many different ways now. I mean, if you were asking me this pre-internet, it would be probably a shorter or simpler answer. But now it's like, I don't even have to explain it. I mean, obviously it's right there in front of us. There's so many different ways. I mean, it's overwhelming, how much is coming at us with people doing their own courses. And it's not just guitar players. Everybody's making their own courses. Everybody is doing content creation on their own and taking it to Skillshare and starting Kajabi sites and all. It's awesome. It's very good. It's very empowering. It's very cool to see people doing this independent thing that I've been doing for a long time. And now everybody's getting into it, and, to lesser and greater degrees of success, it all comes down to the same thing. You're creating your thing. And like Brad just recently from TrueFire just recently turned me on to the idea of a funnel. You're creating your funnel, and that takes people, and they, you put them into that funnel and eventually get them to that place. But part of that journey in their funnel is got to be multifaceted and you have to provide lots of things and different things to offer, because you can't just come at people, at the top of that funnel and zero in on somebody and go, "Hey, I'm Chris. I got something. You want to buy it?" And it just doesn't work like that, because first of all, everything is for free now. And you have to really culture and create your audience to be interested in you enough that they want to see. The phrase now is they want to support you. It's almost as if that we're trying to get people to, be interested and like us enough that they'll give us money. The concept of buying something is not the same as it used to be when it comes to something that I do. Like, I create things that are not needed. Like, yeah, music, everybody, we love it, we need it in our lives, but we don't need it to live. And again, I know, yes, we do. I can't live without music, but you know what I'm saying? I'm not making burgers. Yeah. I'm not making aspirin. I'm disposable income, period. So are you. You know, we are disposable income. So, you know, we gotta convince people that they are interested enough to buy it, and it's not even a thing where they're buying something. It just seems more like I want to support this artist, so they keep doing this because I like it.
So on that note, if somebody wants to find out more about you, and what's the best way to connect with you?
There is a chrisbuono.com. There has been for quite a long time, which is where the beginning of what I just said is going to happen. That's going to become a very different thing this year, but it'll always be there. So that's there. The website's there, and the TrueFire course, everything is there. It's just going to be done in a better way. Facebook, Instagram, I'm there. And yes, there is a YouTube channel, and that's also part of the next chapter. Is the website, YouTube channel is going to become something completely different. Those 4 ways are ways you can find me. Oh, I do have a Bands in Town, which is a great platform for getting the word out on gigs and communicating with fans that want to just come see live stuff and this and that. So there's that. So those things are how you can find me.
Cool. Well, I'll make sure to put all the links to that in the comments. Man, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me, man. It's good to learn a little bit more about you, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, man. And hey, thank you so much for all the fun picks because these things are great. They've changed things for the better. I'm pretty picky about picks. I could probably count on one hand how many times I've switched over. And so that's a big deal for me when I start playing other picks and stuff like that. And so I've found that I can play things with these picks, especially the Battle Axe stuff, that I didn't know I could, and it's been great. And I use them, I use different gauges and different types for different things. And it's pretty cool. They've been doing a lot of TrueFire work lately and this and that. So yeah, man, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot, Chris. Take care.